Hello all, welcome to the Hope Without Sight podcast with your hosts Saylor Cooper
and Tyler Evans.
The topic of this podcast will consist of many stories of people from various backgrounds and experiences who have had many challenges and have been able to successfully overcome them and rise to the top.
So sit back and relax as we give you the best of these diverse stories.
Because if you are feeling down and out, like you cannot make it in the world, then this podcast is the right one for you. Because if my guests can make it, so can you. Happy listening. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to my very first episode of a podcast, Hope Without Sight. On this first episode, I have a mother and son joining me. I met them at the convention of the National Federation of the Blind in New Orleans. Please welcome Maria and Mark.
Hey. We're blessed to be here. We're so glad that you invited us, and we're so glad that we met you at that blind conference. It was such an amazing experience, man. The podcast that we had together on the Shine podcast is already finished. It's just about to be uploaded. Maybe ours will be uploaded at the same time, so they have like part 1, part 2, you know? It'll be
yes. Fun. So, then as you know, as the name implies, my podcast, Hope Without Sight, my goal of this podcast is to inspire others by getting my guests to share stories of how they've overcome difficulties and challenges in life, and how they can be resilient, and just overall just to spread a message of hope. What information do y'all have to give? Because I know y'all have a podcast called Shine with Mark and Marie. It's awesome. It's great. But I want to go back to the beginning. What inspired you to do your podcast?
Well, thank you so much again for inviting us, Saylor. It's such an honor to know you and be part of your first podcast. So what inspires to have a podcast? I was battling cancer, and it was a very hard time in my life where everything was uncertain. I wasn't sure if I was going to live, how I was going to live, and if I was going to live, then what would be my purpose? Because I think God always puts us through trials, but there's always a reason. So I wanted to understand what was going to be this reason to go through this time in my life, and what was the purpose at the end of the day. So we started the podcast not knowing where it was going to go. We were just going to, in my mind, I was just trying to make a memory, a little history with my son and my daughter, because she was also invited to the podcast. And I just wanted to leave those little memories in the history of a podcast. And I wanted to make sure that every conversation we had was kind of like a little message to the youth, to the parents, to the community who was listening to our podcast, of hope, exactly of that, just of hope, and to no matter what trials you got, life gives you, you gotta overcome them. And when is your end, you gotta face it with honor, with dignity, and leave the world a better place. So that's kind of how we started the podcast.
Awesome. Well, of course, I started my podcast because, as you know, it's obvious I've lived with challenges as well. I'm a person who's legally blind. I can see a little bit, but not too much. Therefore, I've always had to do things in life differently. Yeah. And I've had many challenges in life, being blind from, I was baby up until, now, especially now being out in the real world, finding employment, it can be quite difficult. And, of course, I want to inspire others and just spread a message that you can do anything you set your mind to. It doesn't matter where you come from or what skills or abilities you may have. You could do anything you wish, and if you have a dream, just pursue it. And I'm especially getting heavy into this podcast now because I'm trying to become an entrepreneur.
Yes, sir.
To start my own business myself. And in fact, I do have a legal business set up, an LLC called Real Variety LLC. And I hope to get this podcast spread out to all platforms, from Apple Podcasts to Spotify to Google Podcasts. And again, to share that message of hope.
Yep.
And in addition, I also have an internet radio station that's on the air 24/7 called Real Variety Radio that plays... Yes, you got it. Thank you. RealVarietyRadio.com. It plays all kinds of music, from pop to country to Christian to everything. And I even do talks on there as well. Actually, myself and my best friend Tyler, we were on that station. And so we thought we shouldn't just stop at doing this as a hobby. We can do much more than that. We can start a business, make money, however that is, getting sponsors, selling commercials, even putting ads on our podcast. We can do just that.
Sell merchandise.
You got it.
There's so many ways to go about what you're going after, bro. And I just want to say something. I checked out RealVarietyRadio.com and I love it.
Thank you.
I love the music. I love the way you're talking so confidently on there. I heard some advertisements in between the song, and I just heard your voice, and you just so much personality, so much heart in there, and I love that you're bringing that side of yourself out and sharing it with the world, right? Me and my mom talk about shine, right? Shine,
yes.
And the whole concept of shine is to bring out your inner light and to express it with the world, and that's what we're here doing today, right? That's your whole goal today. You're creating this podcast to give hope. Right, you share a story so that you might be able to give somebody some hope.
Yes.
They're like, oh, if I go through that, maybe I can survive too, because that's what people are afraid of these days. And since the beginning of time, is failure.
Failure, yes.
They don't want to fail.
No.
They're like, I don't believe in myself. How do I know I'm gonna make it? What if people make fun of me? What if it doesn't work? What if I start that business and it goes to zero? Should I keep going or should I go back?
Keep going.
To my mom's basement. What do I do? Right, so that's what maybe we should talk about that today too. A little bit about that. How do you believe in yourself, Saylor? Where does that self-belief come from?
I believe in myself because I know myself more than anybody else, and I can't thank my God, my Lord and Savior, more for the abilities that He gave me to do this stuff. Sure, I know there's gonna be challenges. The road's going to be long. The climb's going to be steep. It's not going to be easy.
That's right.
But all I can do is just keep pressing on, keep moving forward.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yes, sir. So you want to start sharing some stories? What do you think? Should we start transitioning to story time?
Let's do it. Yes, let's do it. So I want to ask y'all first. Tell me, what's this book here on the table?
Oh, man. All right. Well, here, I'll say a little bit of it, and then I want my mom to say what she thinks of it. So I started creating this book called Words to Empower some years ago, where I started compiling these success principles, these quotes of all these successful people, from athletes to political leaders, even like presidents, and especially entrepreneurs too, right? Like just getting these keys to success and what it took. Words to Empower was. And then I kind of lost the flame for that book, but I still had the fire in me to create this concept of success principles because I knew the power that these different concepts had. So some years later, I came up with this idea to create a journal that not only included success principles within from that book that I was starting to write, but also an opportunity for kids to write about thinking about those success principles. So it's a social emotional journal. So it's I call it the intro to personal development with a side of reflective journaling. So that's how I look at it. And it's just a place where people can explore powerful topics that can change their life, in my opinion, that have changed my life. And I just compiled the best I have and put it into that book.
Awesome. I like that you're inspiring even little children. You're influencing young children. You're engraving positivity into their minds, because as you know, their minds are like little sponges. They absorb everything.
That's right. And I think Mark did a great job absorbing some of the stuff that he grew up around. For me, the power of words was super important in our lives. At a very early age, when I was 9, somebody gave me a journal, and I started writing on this journal. I don't know who gave it to me. It was on a birthday. It was one of my birthday gifts when I was 9 years old. And at first, when I saw it, it was just a white pages on it. I was like, I'm going to just keep this in a drawer. I'm never going to use it. Maybe I'll use it to draw some pictures or illustrate something. But with time, I started writing, and those were my first stories. And so as I got older and I became a mother, I wanted to share that experience of the power of print by getting them their own journals. And but something really kind of strange happened when I had both of my kids. They were not getting along, and I was going to the bookstore and I couldn't find the perfect book to help them to get along. So guess what? I decided to publish my own book, and it's called The Annoying Little Brother. And so Mark is one of the characters with his sister. I wrote this book to help them to get along and live in perfect harmony, because it was so hard being a single mom, trying to get them to understand how valuable their friendship was going to be later in life. And a lot of times kids are born with this, anger or jealousy, whatever you want to call it, but it's more about the all about me stage. And a lot of adults never grow out of that stage. They stay in the all about me stage. It's me, I want it all, pay attention to me. So I think this book kind of opened our eyes. It opened my eyes to about this important issue, and 2, it helped my kids to get along, and also to get them to understand the power that a book can have in a kid's life. If you get the right book, share it with the kid, you never know where this book might take them, kind of thing. So for me, The Annoying Little Brother has been just like a little seed that I planted. Mark grew up watching me share it in the schools, going to do workshops in different, not just in the U.S., not just in Houston, but all around the U.S., on different trips. And they actually would get up and read it to each other in conferences like in Chicago or New York or LA. And at first they were embarrassed, and it was funny because they would be like, no, Mom, don't make me get in front of all these people. But with time, they started to enjoy it, and I think they started to understand the value and the message of the book. And so here we are years later. I'm so proud that Mark finally published his own book, and he discovered the power that words have. And I'm even more excited that he turned the book more into a question format to just get people to think. Stop and think, because that's really all we want. I wrote this book to get my kids to stop and think about how can they get along, how can they become better human beings and better family. And then Mark wrote this book to help others and encourage others to stop and think and come up with solutions and even plan your life, because it's all in our heads. We have it. God made us so perfect. We have the answers, but we don't stop to think. So that's kind of like a little summary of what I see and how I see the value of this, the Shino book.
Wow, that's so awesome. Both of y'all are writing books, because I could use it. I mean, my sister and I it's very, sometimes we've gotten along, sometimes we haven't. You know how that goes. Siblings, they fight all the time. But maybe, you could use this book as well. And speaking of that, me and my good friend Tyler Evans, we have been working on writing a memoir book together. Because he and I, although we are just very, very good friends, even though we may not be biologically, literally, we are almost like brothers. Because right. we share the same values. We grew up, we have the same eye condition, which is a retinopathy prematurely. He and I were born 3 months premature, except he was born 2 years earlier in 91. Me and my sister, we were born in 93. Okay. And he has a twin brother as well.
Wow.
his eyes, check this out, his eyes reversed the same as my sister did. So in other words, his twin brother, my twin sister, they have vision. And even more, we saw the same eye surgeon, because when we were 3 months old, we were life flighted to Detroit, Michigan, to one of the best retinal specialists out there. Because of him, we have at least, a little bit of vision that we have today.
Wow.
So I'm hoping that he and we can finish writing our book together and we can publish it as well.
So what's the message, man? Tell me about that book. I want to know more about it. What's the goal? What are you doing?
The goal of that book is just to, again, inspire others.
So what's a memoir? What does that mean? I don't even know.
A memoir is like a story of your life.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Personal story.
Yes.
The hardships and what helped you to get out of them?
You got it. Yeah,
Gotcha.
that's what it is.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Do you plan on doing a short book or a chapter book? What kind of length are you thinking of?
Oh, I would say it would be a chapter book. Like once we combine everything together, maybe like I could say it could be like anywhere from 6 to 10 chapters.
Are you putting Braille in there?
Absolutely, we'll do Braille, print, all mediums, audio, you name it.
Love it.
Yeah.
It. Yes, sir. Got to think big, my man.
Yeah, and yeah, and also, I mean, that's what we may do. So let's go deeper.
Let's do it.
Y'all take me all the way back, to your life, like as far as you could go. Tell me the easy roads with the difficulties and how you overcame every single challenge in your life. I would say, Maria, let's start with you.
Okay. Wow. Go all the way back. Okay, I can go back all the way to my childhood.
Back to the farm, Mom.
To the farm. So I was born in the United States and grew up illegally in Mexico. I'm the opposite story of everybody else's story here in the United States. And why did that happen? Because my father abandoned my mother at the hospital. My mother was dying with a tumor in her brain. And my father was an American-Irish citizen. My mother was here with a missionary visa. And she was battling this illness. And when I was born, the doctor told her that she probably was not going to be able to take care of me, because once they took out the tumor, she had to learn to speak and walk. My mother was disabled, and for 6 years, I didn't really know her. I was sent to Mexico, and I grew up with my grandparents in a beautiful farm in a beautiful city called the City of Eternal Spring. So God had a plan right there for me to grow up in a healthy environment, full of love, with amazing grandparents and like a bunch of aunts and uncles who took care of me, and they became like my brothers and my sisters. So that's why I'm able to love. That's why I'm able to appreciate people and respect people and respect humanity, because I grew up, next to animals and in a farm, and you learn all those basic skills in a farm, which is pretty cool. My challenge though was that when I found out I was not from Mexico at 9 years old, this is so weird, but at 9 years old, I found out I was not born in Mexico. I found out my grandparents were not my parents. So this 9-year-old happy kid turned into a little bit of a, disappointed person, resentful, and scared. I was scared because I was like, why did these people stole me? Because I grew up in a town that they stole kids around me. So, I was like, why did they stole me? What if these are not my grandparents? So I was full of questions at 9 years old. But remember, somebody gave me a journal at 9 years old? You remember when I shared that earlier?
Oh, yes.
That journal saved my life. So, you know why it saved my life? Because I started to write, I started to color, I started to paint in those white pages. And little did I know that that's where I was going to have, it was going to be part of my healing, the journal. So it was just like an aha moment when I became a teacher, because I look back and I'm like, what kid? How come these kids don't like to write? I love writing. And it took me all the way back to getting that journal and learning to love writing. But it was because it healed my heart. It healed my my soul, and I found a lot of answers in my brain that were there, but I had to write the questions, answer my own questions, and think along, as a teenager later on in my life. So that was my first, I guess, the first gift that I received from the universe, that diary, to help me heal. Then my next challenge was when I became a mom. And for me, it was a fairy tale of finding my Prince Charming, super handsome guy that I married, which is the father of my kids. My fairy tale was I was going to live forever with him and raise our beautiful kids. But he decided to go a different path. And I accepted it, that I was going to be a single mom. And I respected his choice. But I also respected my children more, and I respected and loved them so much that I decided to take that quest by myself, and later publish a book, because I couldn't find the books on the store to help me, just to get them to get along. I think stopping to think and write, stopping to think and meditate, and stopping to think and really reflect on what were some of the solutions is really what has saved my life. I never begged for other people to come and help me. I never said, oh, I need the government, I'm going to live off the government, I'm going to apply for, I don't know, welfare or whatever they call those those social services.
SSI, Social Security, yeah.
So for me, growing up with farmers and hardworking people who really had the passion to make changes in whatever space they were, that was a message I had in my heart, in my mind, and that's all I wanted to do. So whatever space you are giving, whatever opportunity you're giving, you just got to make the best of it. Well, and whatever it's going to take, you're just going to do it. So that really was has been always my to-go-to. My own brain has the answers because God gave me those answers. It's just I got to go deep inside and find those answers. And write them down, put them on paper. That's why for me, writing is so vital. With that writing, I feel like then I don't think I would have had the opportunity to reflect. So to me, writing on the journal is the most powerful thing that I really had, and having God in my heart.
Awesome, Mark. You could go next. If you're done, Mark, you could go next.
No, I don't want to stop her. I just want to say a point on that is my mom didn't go to drugs. She didn't go to suicide or giving up, or she didn't go to negative outlets to express her struggles. She went to positive outlets, which was thank God she was given that journal, and she doesn't even know who gave it to you particularly. It was a gift, and she doesn't remember who it was. So maybe it was an angel. I don't know, and that gift of a healthy outlet has now trickled down to me, and to create, and I realize the power of print, the power of writing, the power of art, the power of expressing yourself on paper can totally change your mood. It's like therapy. Sometimes you just need to talk about your story, talk about your experience, and you might be able to find a solution. You might even be able to come up with it yourself. We all have we all have a mind that is capable if we give it a chance, right?
Yeah.
That's right.
I do want to add something. I'm glad that you mentioned no drugs, no alcohol, because our mind is so capable, because God created us so perfect that we can have these sensors. But a lot of times when we go to other venues or other things, then we alter our mind, we alter our thinking, so therefore it's not clear anymore. And then we get confused. And you know what is the biggest fear for people? Well, people say that fear is the worst enemy, right? But confusion, to me, is probably the biggest challenge in our lives. Confusion. Because let's say you're brave and you're going and everything, but if you're confused about things and you're not clear, your mind's not clear, you're not going to go too far with that.
Yeah, and to be lost, right? You mean confusion on which path you should be going down, on finding confused on what solution. How
Yes.
do I get over this? I never met my father. This is your story, I'm saying. You never met your father, and you struggled with it. You wrote it down, right? You figured out other ways. You found a healthy solution, right? And I think that's so important for people they might be afraid, but to march forward and find a healthy solution. Ask the good people you have around you. How can I figure this out? And that's kind of what we're doing today, is like is sharing what we have found to be the solution to things, right?
Yeah, and
Yes.
surrounding yourself, Sailor, I think the other key for me was surrounding myself with good friends, good people, mentors that inspire me to just become a better human being, and not to give up. And on those times that were down, my down times, I was able to call somebody, or I was able to just go for a walk, and God would send an angel, like a total stranger that would come and give me advice or give me a few words of encouragement, and it was so beautiful. It was so beautiful. So I really feel, just don't bury yourself in the depression. Don't bury yourself in negativity. Get yourself out, walk, even just walking, receiving the fresh air, feeling the sunlight on your face really refreshes you and helps you to start looking at the world in a different way.
That's right. Well, yeah, if Maria, if you don't have anything else, well, thanks so much for sharing your perspective. Mark, you're next.
Awesome, man. Awesome. So just to add on to my mom before I share maybe one of my hardships is the reason to walk. Think about our body like a river that flows, right? We have thoughts that flow. We drink water, it flows through our digestive system, right? So, and we have energy, right? Physical energy. We have to get it out. We eat and we get energy. And then we have to exercise to expend that energy, right? And if we don't exercise, if we don't eat clean, if we eat a bunch of sugar, we're going to get a high of energy, and then we're going to have a crash of energy, right? So that's why it's good to eat clean foods that will be sustainable energy, not a quick high and then a crash, right? It's like drugs too. It's a quick high and then a crash, right? So that's why you need to find good sources that are going to be flowing through your river. Per se, this is an interesting metaphor, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, very interesting.
And so, yeah, I think make sure you're having good things flowing through your river, mentally, physically, and spiritually. Even music, right? I'm hearing this great music you're playing on realvarietyradio.com, and I'm like, wow, this is good stuff to be putting down my earflow, my soul to be listening to. It's good stuff. It's fun stuff. It's beautiful, soothing music even. So let's see. What story can I share? I've had surgery on my leg recently because of a tumor. That was like a physical difficulty, and
I saw that. That's right. I saw a video on your YouTube channel about a surgery. I was wondering what that was.
Yeah, man. I had a surgery. I was born with tumors I have three. Oh, now I have two because I got one removed last year. And, I ran track, and I was the district champion, and I broke the school record in the 800 meter. So I was really good at track, and it never hindered me. But I joined mixed martial arts. I started doing kickboxing and jiu-jitsu, and I ended up it got pushed on, and it cracked right off my leg, and I couldn't walk for a few weeks. And then I had to get surgery. We saved up money. We figured it out. We've never been the most wealthy people in any stretch at all. So we've had to figure it out my whole life. My mom has had to figure it out. We've been blessed to make it. We've had times where maybe we didn't have the money, but we figured it out. We figured it out through our humble beginnings. Because of our humble beginnings, we knew how to feed ourselves. We knew how to work hard to get our money that we needed. And we knew how to reach out to people if we needed some help. And I think that's so important. You got to drop the ego sometimes and ask for help from mentors, from loved ones, from friends. That's just so important. We have a lot of people out here killing themselves and getting lost because they're afraid to ask for help. And I think it's time to drop the pride and ask for help and find solutions, because that's the way we're going to live in harmony, as my mom always says. Let's learn to forgive. That's one of the pages in my book, is let's learn to forgive, not only people but also ourselves. And that's that's also a biblical message. Love thy neighbor. If you can't forgive the neighbor for them trespassing against you, how are you going to love them? So, that's a big key, is to learn to forgive. So my surgery was one of my biggest hardships, but I also want to talk about losing a loved one. I think one of the most under talked about and under figured out things and hardships in life is how to lose a loved one. And I lost my grandma Teresa a few years back. She had Alzheimer's, and she ended up passing away of a stroke in the end. But my golly, she was amazing. She taught me about God. She told me biblical stories my whole life, and she made us fresh fruits growing up and fresh breakfast. Pozole, which is a Mexican, a traditional Spanish dish, and I mean, she made all this great food and shared so much love with us. And she honestly taught me how to lose someone. And she was the biggest loss of my life so far. And you know, it's my my God that gives me hope whenever I lose a loved one. I've lost so many dogs and animals in my life. We've had so many pets, and I think the solution to lose someone is to have faith that they've done good in this life, and they're gonna go to heaven. You're gonna meet them once again. You know, I think that's what has given me the most peace. And of course, you're gonna miss that loved one, and of course, I miss my grandma Teresa, but I know she's off to a better place, and that gives me peace. And I'm not so sad about her leaving this physical realm per se.
Well, as far as with me, I can semi-relate. I really haven't lost anybody. Well, I have, but they weren't like super, super close. I lost both of my great-grandmothers. My paternal great-grandmother passed in 2006. She was like over 90 years old. She was just old. My maternal great-grandmother, she passed right after Thanksgiving in 2018. She was just in her 90s. She also had cancer as well. But I think your story is preparing me and others, because I do have a grandfather right now. You're not going to believe this. He's 102 years old.
That's right. You told me the
Yes.
other day. Yeah.
He's a World War II veteran. Was served in the war. Was shot down in the Pacific by Japanese artillery.
Wow.
He was so afraid that he would be captured, but instead he was rescued by the American boat. He wasn't certain whether he was going to be able to fly again due to his injuries, but he did. He continued in the service for a little while longer, and then he got out. He flew for Pan American Airlines, and he graduated from Allegheny College, which is his alma mater. And from there, he moved here to Houston to start a pipe supply oil company, which did very well. And he dissolved the company in the mid-'80s during the oil crash. And also he dissolved it because he was going through hardships himself. He lost both his mother and his other wife right at the same time. And but what the good thing that came out of it is that he met my grandmother right afterwards, and since then they had a very good marriage. You know, I feel that you're kind of preparing me because, you know, he is 102. He has his days. He'll have his good and bad days. He had a stroke 6 years ago. Before his stroke, he was still doing very well. He was in his mid-90s, but honestly, he was acting, you know, and getting around like he was in his 60s. His health was just so good. And even after the stroke, his health was still very good, except he's been in a wheelchair ever since. But I mean, lately, especially the past 2 years, his mind has gone down, and I guess it's expected because, you know, that's what old age is about. He does have dementia. I mean, it's a joy that he's still here, but I mean, at the same time, we know that the time is going to come, you know, soon, within the next few years. You know, so if anything, I just have to enjoy the time that I still have with him, right? And I'm so glad that you share that story to prepare me.
That's right.
Prepare all of us for that.
That's right, my man. And just, I live with no regrets with my grandmother, because I spent a lot of time with her. I gave her so much love, and you know, she had one stroke, and then there was this amazing procedure, I forget the name, that flushed out the blood clots of the stroke, and we got another year with her before she ended up passing away of another stroke. But man, that last year I got with her was just amazing, and I just got to ask her for life advice. You know, I got to ask her some deeper questions, and I have no regrets, because I know that I did my best, and I think that's the most important thing.
And this is your mom's mom,
My
right?
mom's mom. That's right. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I want to add something.
Go ahead, please.
So I want to add something because, she didn't raise me. Her family did. And she was always really she always felt bad and guilty about that. So I told her when my kids were born, I told her, Mom, this is your chance to help me raise my kids because I was going to be a single mom. I knew that I was going a different route. And I said, would you do the honor to help me? And let's get to know each other now at this time of our lives. So I was in I was 25 when I got married and 26 when I had my first child. And so I asked her to.
You were 28.
Well, Alex was born
You were 28.
27. I'm sorry, 27. I got pregnant at 28. Yes. But my point is that I asked her to help me with my kids, but because I wanted to know her. I wanted to get to know her at that level. And God gave me the chance. So we lived together pretty much the rest of her life. And it was a blessing too, getting to see her under that different light,
And your mom didn't raise you again. Why was that again?
Because she had a tumor in the back of her brain and she
Oh.
learned to speak and walk for 6 years. And I didn't get to reunite with her until I was a
Wow.
teenager, pretty much, because I didn't come back to the United States till I was 16. And that's when I had to learn to I came back, I learned to speak English. I went to college. I learned to, I became a teacher. I've been a teacher for 26 years. So the rest is history. But my point is that the people who raised me were her family, her parents, and they gave me a great life. But I wanted to get to know her. I wanted to spend time with her, and I did. I got to spend time with her, and she played a very big influence in my kid's life, and I was grateful for that. It's almost like God gave her also a second chance in that area of parenting.
That's inspiring. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And that was beautiful. That was beautiful for me because I learned a lot from her. She was very stern, very stern. I mean, the day I published the book, she said, "This is the book you've been writing? I thought it was going to be a novel." And she just threw it on my kitchen table. But she was very strict, but always expected the best of me, even to go above and beyond things. But that really helped me grow and just become better, become a better human being. I never took her personal. I never said, "Oh, she doesn't love me. Oh, she wants." No, I mean, I was like, what does she want? She wants me to write a novel. Okay, I'm going to write that novel. So you always have to learn to never take things so personal.
Right.
And learn to just get the message that somebody's trying to tell you. It's because they love you. They wouldn't be spending time talking to you unless they really love you.
You got it. You got it. Now, awesome. So, Mark, do you have anything else to share, or should we toss it to me?
Let's see. I want to hear about you, and maybe let's toss.
Let's toss it to me.
Yeah, tell me about your hardship, man.
All right. So,
wait 1 second. I did have one thing.
Okay, go.
Thank you. Oh, 1 second. I'm sorry. So, feeling depressed and lost. I have felt depressed and lost in my life a couple of times, and man, it is a negative momentum spiral. It drains you. It makes you not want to get out of bed. It creates physiological changes in your body. Makes you not want to work out anymore, which makes you lose muscle mass. Anxiety becomes a thing. So the reason why I had it, and there was probably a multitude of reasons, but one of the biggest things that caused that time in my life, which thank God I'm past it now, was putting a lot of pressure on myself because I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life, and I didn't know if I was on the right path. And I overstressed myself, and I fell into a depression, and I was just, oh my gosh, I was just freaking out. And I just want to say, in order to overcome that kind of stuff, I had to have patience with myself. I had to talk to so many mentors and loved ones and friends, and eventually, and definitely God too. God helped me to get out of it and to find peace with myself and to have patience with myself. He said, "You're gonna be all right. Just don't be so hard on yourself. You'll figure it out. I got a plan for you." And so I just had to start figuring out what he had planned for me and listening to him, and kept on welcoming him into my life and saying, "God, can you please guide me today? And please give me some strength, because man, I'm scared. Can you give me some strength today, please?" And so positive momentum began. It didn't happen overnight. The depression didn't go, and the anxiety didn't go away overnight. It took weeks and months. And then I've even gone back into depressions, but because of the other hardships. But then you adapt, you overcome, and you continue marching, even though you have no money, even though you are just not sure of what you're going to do, even though you have this something eating away at you. You keep on marching, you keep on smiling, you keep on being a light in the world, and that's what'll take you out of it.
That's right. Always be a light in the world and only move forward.
Yes, sir. Let's hear your story, my friend.
All right. So, my story kind of aligns somewhat to y'all's, for certain reasons, and I'm sure you'll see why. As I mentioned before, the reason why I'm legally blind is because me and my sister, we were born 3 months premature. And actually, before we were born, the reason why my name is Saylor is because my mom sailed in the Caribbean for 4 years on a sailboat with her then husband, of course, my dad. They sailed for 4 years around the Caribbean and the Virgin Islands. And in fact, I was almost going to be born there, but thank God I wasn't, because for one, since I was born so early, I would not have made it. They don't have the advanced medical equipment there. So thank God my mom came back here, to Texas, and thank God she came back way before, because me and my sister, we weren't due until September. So yeah, we were actually born right here, just 10 minutes away in Conroe, and of course we were born 3 months early. My retina's detached. I mentioned I was life-flighted to Detroit, Michigan, where I had surgeries. I think 7 surgeries on both of my eyes. And because of that, I have a vision that I have now on my right eye. I could see pictures. I could see your face if you're close, but I can't see no more than 10 feet away. And my left eye just have light. My sister's eyesight's okay, but she has mild case of cerebral palsy in her legs. She can walk, but her muscles tighten up quite a bit. I can relate to y'all, and my mom can too, because, as far as us not having a father or husband, it was the same. For one, my dad was not happy about the pregnancy to begin with, which is, which could contribute to us being born early. Of course, it stressed my mom out a whole lot. Just to sum up, my dad is nothing but a huge narcissist. He only thinks about himself. He only thinks about what he wants. He thinks that, he's the king and he can make all decisions. And of course, that didn't go well, with my mom at all. And of course, they divorced when I was 6 months old. Growing up, I did question a whole lot, what my dad was like. And of course that's normal, for children to question that. They want to know, if not at least one, but both their biological parents. And so that's why I asked those questions. But I did finally get to meet my dad when I was 21 years old, my real dad. He was who he was. He was exactly like my mom and others described to me. He's very good at first, but just in summary, he's good with being around groups of people, but he's not so good as far as individually, getting along people individually. And so of course they divorced when I was 6 months old. My maternal grandmother, my dad's mom, she passed of cancer when I was 1 year old. Me and my sister were 1 year old. Of course, we attended a funeral. I don't remember. So, of course, we attended a funeral of my paternal grandmother, and once my dad saw that we were normal, he wanted the family back together, which in reality, as we know, that wasn't real, because it was all talk, it was all fake. So, of course, they got back together for a while, and he even tried doing research to improve, our lives since we were born so early, because going back, after we were born, he was not optimistic at all that we would survive, because we were just so sick in a lot of ways, just had IVs everywhere and whatnot. I almost died multiple times due to lung hemorrhages, and that was just not going with him. So of course, my mom told me I had to get out. If you can't be optimistic and positive about it, you need to go. So once they got back together, he researched other ways to improve outcomes. So he found this physical therapy program called IAHP, Glenn Doman out of Philadelphia, which involves physical therapy to train on neural pathways for our brain. It involved paddling, crawling, creeping, stuff like that. As far as for me, it involved eye exercises where I would be put in a closet with a flashlight, and someone would turn the light on and off, so that way my eyes can, connect more with my brain, Yes, exactly, yes. And so once he found that, me and my mom had to go through that program in Philadelphia. They had to train her how to do it with me, because it was an at-home DIY program. You do it yourself. And she said that, the program director said it was impossible to do it with two children. In other words, she had to choose who needed it the most. And so, of course, since, I had more challenges and I was blind and whatnot, she chose me, so I was admitted into the program. But, of course, they secretly did it with my sister as well. And, in short, things didn't go well with my mom and dad again. They split up again, and this time it was over. And so my mom was left, financially strapped. My dad tried to convince my mom to move to Cuba to do this program where the labor was cheaper. And of course, she said she wasn't going to do that. So she opted, to move to Mexico, because my grandparents had some friends that lived or visited down there. They visited down there quite a bit. So when I was 2.5 years old, that's when we moved to Cancun, Mexico, to do this, to finish out this program, because the labor was cheaper. She, hired, Mexican girls to help her do this program instead of paying more money here to do it. And I don't remember all of it, but it was a hard program. I even have videos of it that my grandmother had saved, and actually she got those tapes converted to digital format, and I saw the videos, and it was a hard program. And after we finished with that program, which technically we didn't because it was overwhelming, my mom just didn't want to leave Mexico because it was so beautiful. So she decided to stay and start a bed and breakfast B&B business there, renting a house that we rented, which eventually we bought. And then the business just expanded. Me and my sister, we grew up down there, went to school down there. Of course, we became bilingual, both in English and Spanish, and it was great. Also, all that was good. And as far as me living with my blindness growing up, for the most part, it was very, very good. I mean, I could do everything. I could swim. I even scuba dive. I snow ski. I grew up snow skiing in Colorado because, of course, I was raised here as well too. At the same time, like I spent like the school year in Mexico and spent the summers, falls, Christmases, you name it, here in the States. And of course, I competed in a swim meet at one of my grandfather's country clubs that he was members of when I was 6 years old. It was great. So I could do everything as a blind person. However, I didn't learn all the necessary, skills, such as Braille, and technology. Instead, I use print more because I can read print if it's large, but it's just not efficient for me because my eyes would just get too tired. But at the same time, I understand why, my mom and others wanted me to use a vision that I had, growing up, because I'm not gonna lie, we did have high hopes. We kept seeing my eye doctors when I was a kid. We had high hopes that new procedures would come about to improve my vision, which they didn't. I mean, that's fine because I'm, you think about it, I'm fine the way I am now. I get along great. It's awesome, great. So that's that. My childhood was good. But when I was 14, I moved back here to the U.S., to Texas, full time to go to school here. Went to Magnolia ISD for a little bit. Magnolia Independent School District, junior high. Went to school here for a little bit, but eventually I ultimately wanted to go to the Texas School for the Blind and Visually Impaired in Austin. As you know, every state has a school for the blind, because of course I wanted to associate more with people like me. You have the same disabilities, needs, and whatnot. And of course, back then I didn't hear such a thing about the NFB, and the ACB and all those blind organizations out there. I didn't even know they existed. And so I thought, going to a school for the blind was kind of the only option or solution, which it was both good and bad. It had its goods and its drawbacks. Sure thing. Well, for one thing, whenever because I had to go through a process to get into the school for the blind, and that TVI at the school district did warn me she didn't think it would be a good fit for me because of the IDEA, whatever the law is to provide services in the public schools for people with special needs. Because as you know, back then, a couple of decades ago, things weren't as sophisticated as they are now. Well, because of that, the School for the Blind wasn't more geared towards me. It was more, the school year itself was geared more towards people who had other disabilities besides blindness, autism, intellectual disabilities, physical disabilities, you name it. And of course, I really didn't have, that's any of that stuff, which is why, it wasn't a fit for me. But I'm glad I did go in the first place, because I learned more technology, such as I learned more Braille. I learned to use the JAWS screen reading program, which before I used Zoom Text, which is another program which has magnification, but you see again, Zoom Text wasn't as efficient because again, it didn't provide all the information that I needed. And so like I mean, it was good that I went, in the first place. But at the same time, it had its challenges. I didn't feel like, I was challenged as much, but I worked through everything. I advocated for more, and that's that. I graduated from both my local school district in high school in 2012 and the School for the Blind, which was great. And from then I went to college for 2 years. Went to Blinn College in Bryan, and then transferred to Stephen F. Austin State University to pursue a degree in mass communication. But as you know, college is not for everybody for various reasons. And what is it?
Now you're pursuing it in the business world.
Yeah, exactly. I'm pursuing the business world. So after I did 2 years of college, I just went to find a job. I had jobs. I had quite a few jobs in customer service, recruiting, and also working as in translation interpretation because I'm bilingual, and it was good. But now I'm becoming an entrepreneur. Doing this, I have been doing my radio broadcasts. Of course, I've been honestly been doing them off and on throughout my life since I was a child. But I've been really, really doing it strong for the past 4 years, and now I'm just climbing higher. Like I said, I want to turn this hobby into a business, which is why we're doing this podcast now. And I thank y'all so much for coming. And so yeah, that's my story, y'all.
Thank you, Saylor, for sharing your story. For me, it's inspirational to hear you say, because I've been a teacher for 26 years, so I feel like I'm sitting next to one of my students or something. You just like inspire me in so many levels. But yeah. I love when you said the challenge was that they didn't challenge me enough. I love that, because that is the number one issue, the number one problem in the schools. Students are not being challenged enough. Yes. Therefore, they disconnect, or they get frustrated, or they fall into depression, or they fall into other things that, and that's why we're losing so many students. So I just want to kind of end my last message is to encourage the schools, encourage the parents, anybody who works with children or young adults, or even adults.
Yes.
To make sure that they are challenging them enough, that they're helping them to grow, because the challenge helps us grow. So when someone feels they're not growing, that's when we start getting into problems. That's when people start getting or looking for other issues and things that are going to distract them from their main goal, right? So I'm glad that you are back on track, that you're back on your track of where you're feeling challenged, you feel like you're learning, you're getting ready to start this quest of the podcast. It's a whole new world. We learn about this every day. Just when we think we got it, we're like, oh no, look at this new challenge. There's always a challenge. So you will not be bored here, my friend.
No, it's already challenging, because think of this. I need to do my own taxes. I need to learn accounting, QuickBooks. Woo! I've never done this before.
You're in for a never-ending quest and challenge. So I applaud you, and continue to shine your light and continue to inspire all of us with your story. I think it's a symbol of why it's so important to be resilient in the world, because we don't know what cards we're gonna get, but at the end of the day, we just gotta do our best.
Okay, so to close out, every one of us, let's give a final word of encouragement. What should it be?
Okay.
All right. So for me, I want to say the journey it's going to be hard no matter what. If you do what you don't want to do, it's going to be hard. If you do what you were put on this earth to do, it's going to be hard. So train yourself physically, mentally. Get in the gym. Learn a thing or two. Study hard. Learn about the meaning of life, the origins of life. Study God. I'm going to say that. Study these things that are going to help you to find peace of mind, peace in your heart, so that you can march on the trail, on the mountain that you were put here to march on. Because and if you find the right mountain, man, it's going to be so worth the climb. It sounds kind of cliche, but darn, it's so darn true. If you find the right mountain that you're motivated to, the taxes, all these silly things that are going to be boring, they're going to be worth it because it's for the right mission.
That's right. Anybody, you?
And for me, it would just be what I learned, and I still apply to this day. The day I received it changed my life. So discover the power of prayer, discover the power of reading, and meditating, thinking, because you have all the answers. With God's help, you can accomplish anything. And just don't be afraid to write it down. And you may not like those stories, those first stories you write, or those first answers, or those first thoughts. But eventually, the more you do it, the more the brain is trained to solve and come up with better ideas and better things and better projects. And just don't give up, and let your inner self, your inner light that God gave you shine. Because in the worst scenarios, in the worst moments of your life, that light that you radiate, you're going to attract. So make sure it's a big light so it can show you the way.
That's right. That's right. So, my word of encouragement. You can do anything you set your mind to. Don't let others tell you can't do this. Because other motivational speakers have said, use negativity as fuel to light your fire. Yeah. Do anything you can, and just, regardless of your circumstances, don't compare yourself to other people. You're gifted. God is giving you awesome, incredible gifts. Don't sit down crying, oh, poor me. No.
Yes, get up.
Get up, yeah.
That's good.
You got one life, and you need to live it to the full.
That's right.
Because that's all you got. And just keep pressing on. And if you have a dream and a goal, pursue it and make it come a reality. And just press on and keep fighting, everybody. And so with that, I hope you enjoyed the first episode of Hope Without Sight with Mark and Marie. Thanks, everybody. Woo!
Thank you, brother.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Hope Without Sight with Saylor Cooper
And Tyler Evans.
and got a lot of takeaways from this podcast. We hope you feel renewed, inspired, and encouraged, like you can just carry on and conquer the world.
Please hit the subscribe button on all platforms and tell your friends and family to do the same.
And in the meantime, blessings to all.